we're nervous, Dregs.
Yeah, we're getting chippy with each other now because 2-1's not where we wanted this to be.
No, I get it. And, predictably, this is exactly what Canada was trying to avoid against a team like Finland. You get out to that 2-0 deficit and the Finns just do whatever they can to try and shut it down. So, the goal that Canada scored could be monumental going into the third period because, what you need now, and we saw it before the break, was a couple of saves from Jordan Bennington. I'm not sure you can blame him on either of the Finnish goals, but he's got to shut it down. He's got to shut it down. And as we saw through the midpoint of the second period, maybe to the end of that period, it feels like Connor McDavid is going to have to take this game over for Canada to even it up and perhaps go move ahead.
We were kind of talking about it, that it's almost comical, but here is McDavid in another scenario where he's looking up and down the bench and saying, fellas, can I get some help here? Are you surprised that seemingly how ineffective the depth that seems so impressive for Canada has been?
Yeah. Yes, I am surprised, to answer your question. And, I felt like that against Czechia as well in the quarterfinal, where you look at this Canadian roster and you see the flashes, but it's not wave after wave. And I really felt like that was going to be the depth of the Canadian lineup was going to be their strength, where sure, their back's against the wall. They found a way to get it done. But let's be honest here. The Nick Suzuki goal against Czechia was high skilled, but kind of fluky too, wasn't it? I mean, you're making that redirect play with a puck that shot 2.5, 3 feet wide on a play where he was peeling off, like he was going off on a change. All right, so that breathes new life, into the group, and off they go. And even the minor overtime winner, I'll give the kid credit for having the confidence to break into the zone the way that he did. It was a 1-on-3. How many super skilled players in the National Hockey League, and there are a number of them, are going to be able to score the goal the way that he scored that goal? So there's an element of luck that goes along with all of this, right? So I think that further supports the position that I have through 2 periods here. Is I'm a bit surprised and frankly a little underwhelmed because I did think the Canadian star power would find a way to establish their game much earlier.
Doesn't look like Nate MacKinnon's right, and he was hobbled at the end of the game. What do you make of it all?
Yeah, I'm with you. He's not right. Brad Marchand isn't right. Go down the list. I mean, there's so many players that are playing through something. Yeah, I mean, we saw the video evidence of MacKinnon, basically barfing on the bench. Right now, is that fatigue based on everything that he's dealing with? Don't know, but undoubtedly he's got something. And maybe they've had a bit of a flu bug go through. That was why Sam Bennett didn't play in the last game, and he acknowledged after the fact that he was feeling tough. So in MacKinnon's case, not nearly the game that we've grown accustomed to seeing and expecting seeing from him, and maybe that's part of not just with Nate MacKinnon, but other Canadian players, and what's holding them back a bit.
One of the things Rhett's kind of talked about here today, and until you get into these games and you watch them, it's a non-issue. And it's not a lack of speed, maybe, but the lack of burning. Mark Stone doesn't really have it.
There's enough guys that don't back you up with their speed.
The puck is being lugged up the ice. It's not a.
Now MacKinnon not playing, being at 100 is a huge for that because he's usually a burner. But when you got Wilson, Bennett,
Marchand,
Stone, there's enough guys that aren't. Draco. And it's not to say that they're not capable or good hockey players. It's just it's not pure speed. And I just wonder if there was hey, they come back and win the game, we'll just shut up and go about it. But it hasn't been relentless. We are pushing the Finns back, and the Finns are sitting back, so you're getting enough ozone time. But that's because the Finns are sitting back, not because you're relentlessly on top of them and they can't get going anywhere. They're sitting back.
Yeah.
It's Canadian.
And then on top of that, you did see a Canadian tactic, right? We saw Sam Bennett try and exercise his game in going to the net. Now, that was an ill-timed and bad decision made by Sam Bennett. I mean, I might be in the minority. Is it a penalty? Sure, it's a penalty. I mean, he takes the shot, Saros makes the save, and then Bennett just drives, was it Mikkola, I think, into the goalie and on top of UC Saros. That's just Bennett being the stronger of the two teammates. You know, the question comes into the game of, okay, why do that there and at that point? But I think Sam Bennett was just trying to test the officials.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right or wrong, that's what he's doing. You know, he's going, okay, let me just see what the line is. You know, if he wanted to make a straight line for Saros, he could have. Instead, you know, he uses Mikkola and uses him as the body shield to try and topple the goalie. But that's a tactic, right? And that's Sam Bennett trying to take advantage of an opportunity in a moment in the game that if that penalty doesn't get called on that play, it's maybe a different game moving forward, because now you've got players who are maybe going harder to the net. And I was fine with the penalty that was called, because as Elliot Friedman acknowledged in the intermission, I think that was message sending by the officials to Sam Bennett and everybody else out there. No, we're not going to allow this, so stop it. And it turned out to be very costly, as we saw.
Yeah.
So I think one of the, if we had to call it a weakness, and then maybe that's silly given the talent of the roster, we just said, okay, this blue line, there's guys, but it feels like there's a little more ham and egg than filet mignon on this blue line. Now you're down a goal with 20 to play against a team that is going to trap the hell out of you. Like, I think one of the keys in the third is, like, how are you getting out of your own end here? Because you can skate up ice. There's not going to be a lot of guys open. And to Rhett's point earlier, you don't have these electric, quick defensemen that can use their feet to get it out as much as, you know, you could have brought a Schaefer and a Chikrin. And instead you've got some of the bigger, heavier guys back there.
Yeah, that's fair. You still have Cale Makar.
Yep, that's cool.
And I heard BX talk about that in the first intermission. You know, everybody's singing the praises of Quinn Hughes and what he did in the goal that he scored yesterday, and we can all appreciate what Quinn Hughes is to Team USA and to the Minnesota Wild. Well, Cale Makar has been there and he's done that, and he is not the lesser of those two defensemen. I think I would put Cale Makar, in my opinion, in the same category of Connor McDavid in terms of having the ability to be a game changer and a difference maker in the third period and doing everything that you guys have just mentioned, right? If you need a guy to skate that puck out of trouble and get everybody pushing back, and that's not the way the Finns like to play, but they do have a healthy respect for what Cale Makar is capable of. So I think for him, there will be a green light in this. There has to be. There absolutely has to be a green light for him in the third period. So I wouldn't look beyond him. I know what you're saying. I mean, that blue line is built to defend for the most part. Right. But they're all capable. And then there's Cale Makar, who's an elite level talent who can turn the game in about a 5-second span.
We can shift gears a little bit. We'll watch and see what happens, obviously, coming up in the third. But like two very important players to their NHL squad, Sidney Crosby, Nate MacKinnon. The Penguins and the Colorado Avalanche have different levels of the standings, but Colorado they're the toast of the league, and Pittsburgh is in a playoff spot. I wonder how the GMs are feeling watching their two guys either definitely injured or laboring heavily.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And Sweden, it doesn't matter anymore, but Willie Nylander was kind of in that category for the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are feeling the heat because the Leafs still feel like they're in the playoff conversation. I mean, let's assume if Sidney Crosby, if Canada prevails here and Crosby doesn't play in the gold medal, then the Penguins have a problem and Sid is out long term. I mean, that's pretty evident, I think, right? And as has been reported, Team Canada did everything to put Sidney Crosby in a position where he could test that leg, which he did earlier today. And, then collectively they would make the call. And I know the concerns were he wasn't able to shove off and skate. I mean, every player in the league has played with some form of injury, including Sidney Crosby, who's won Stanley Cups and played through a heap of things. But in this case, excuse me, it was he couldn't execute that part of his game based on how he's feeling. So the decision was made that he wouldn't be available for the semifinal. So they've got to get through this one, but it does seem, without diagnosing here, online or live, because I don't have the evidence to state, it's pretty obvious that he's going to be out a while if they lose and he's not, or if they win and he's not able to go tomorrow or Sunday.
I saw you getting into it with some of the medical protection online.
That's right.
That's good.
Taking runs that are health professionals.
Well, all I did was remind. I know it happens all the time in the NFL and other sports, but for heaven's sake, I mean, the man had just left the game, and here we are, trying to create a Twitter following or online presence with a doctor making a video diagnosis. Like, ooh, holy smoke! So I just reminded, look, let's let him have the MRI. Let the medical people in Italy do what they're going to do, and then we'll find out eventually what the actual diagnosis is.
Tidbit on the Flames. You had noted that when this tournament ends, the trays freeze a lift, and I think we'll start talking about the Colemans and Kadris and White Clouds across the world.
Yeah, well, I'll zero in on Nazem Kadri for a moment here, and there's lots of reason to talk about the other guys too. But I do think that the appetite for change is increasing with Naz. And that's not to say that he wants out. But I think that I know there are offers that are available to the Calgary Flames that are viewed as being good offers that would make the Flames better. But in defense of Craig Conroy as general manager, here's why I think he takes a little bit more time before pulling the trigger. People around Kadri might go, okay, well, those seem like good offers. The interest seems pretty high. But you've got Vinny Trocheck, who we know is available, and the possibility of Ryan O'Reilly coming into play. We've speculated on Ryan O'Reilly for several weeks, but that doesn't mean that he was or is a true trade target, right? Nashville has to determine that, in concert with O'Reilly. So that's what teams are waiting for. So even though the offers are good, if you're Craig Conroy and teams are swirling around those two guys, maybe in conjunction with Kadri or slightly ahead of Naz for whatever reason, I don't know. Why wouldn't you wait? Why wouldn't you wait? I mean, if O'Reilly isn't available, well, Nazem Kadri's expected return probably goes up, and the willingness to accept that price probably goes up. So there could be more of a waiting game, but I do get the sense that it's going to happen with Kadri.
Well, and you see, and not to what the panic level might be in Colorado, say, where you've got a team that's right there, but if you're going to miss MacKinnon for you start to now see what teams might deal with injuries, what that actually looks and feels like.
Pittsburgh needed a center, right?
So that's interesting, Dregs, when without divulging, or maybe you don't know, when you talk about making the Flames better, is that the type of deal that's going to get the fan base excited at futures and that, or is it more to help them compete today, kind of a thing?
No, I mean, it does all depend on what we're talking about here from a financial perspective. If you're looking at the cap teams that would have expressed interest in Calgary, the perfect scenario is a contract goes back, to Calgary to help them accept the cap implications, through the playoffs. I mean, now there are cap restrictions in play, right? So that could be part of it, but I think it has to be futures driven, either a young NHL player or a higher draft pick in a prospect, whatever it happens to be. It'll be something along those lines.
You mentioned those other names, and I'll bring this one up. And again, I'm just kind of throwing darts to see if there's anything there. MacKenzie Weegar's name is now seemingly more and more brought up. The Ottawa Senators are kind of rumored as a team. It was like Anderson or Weegar, one or the other, were probably going to go. Anderson is gone. Is there a potential that Weegar could also be on the move?
Potential, but I don't think that it's front burner stuff. But Ottawa, yes, I've read the Bruce Garriock speculation, and I'm not shooting it down. I think that Steve Stales and the Ottawa Senators would look at the contract, a player with term, and go, okay, well, that makes sense for us and our group. The other team, and I think I mentioned it on the show before, is the Detroit Red Wings. So that's what it's going to take, is a team like that who isn't interested in the rental market, who need that type of defenseman, who value him and have whatever the pieces are that are going to coerce Conroy and the Calgary Flames to make that trade. But every time I ask about MacKenzie Weegar, it's not a hard no. Calgary's not in a position where they can do that. They've got to listen to just about everything. But I still think it's a little too early to say that, yes, he is 100% in play. I think it's more of a listening and maybe projecting based on other conversations that Conroy's having about other players with teams.
It's got to be partly that because White Cloud's there too now, right? Wouldn't it?
Because well, and then also Brestevich, Perek, like they've got a ton of righties, right? All of a sudden, it's like if you're going to play Zane Perek, and you should be.
And would Weegar be in the ear a little bit more? You know, if Kadri's thinking, you know what, I see where
absolutely
right is Weegar now going. You know what? Yeah, I don't dislike Calgary. I love Calgary. It's been wonderful, but we're going to ride this out for the next 5.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Brett. And that shouldn't be misconstrued as a negative, right?
No.
That's the player going to the organization, or you don't even have to go to the organization. Your agent has a conversation, and of course the agent for MacKenzie Weegar would have that conversation because he invested in term to stay in Calgary. Well, he didn't invest in a retool or a rebuild. You know, he invested in thinking, okay, we're going to be a playoff competitive team and maybe better than that. So he's not pulling the chute if he has that conversation. What he's doing is saying, all right, I'm not looking to get out, but I am trying to win a Stanley Cup, you know, within the term of this contract. So if there's an opportunity out there whereby you think I should be interested, I might be, then let's have that conversation. I think that's doing due diligence.
Okay, we're almost starting the third here. We'll get you out real quick. Just a final word on Blake Coleman.
I was just going to say, Coleman back on the ice. He has been injured, but he's back at full strength.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a guy that everybody is watching because he's so valuable, and there'd be a number of teams that would jump at the opportunity to get him. I know headlines were created with his family staying in Texas, which I'm told was the pre-plan. Like that was the strategy for the family all along. So this one might come right down to the wire because I know how valued he is by the Flames.
Thanks, Dregs. Enjoy the third. Appreciate you.
Okay, guys. Thank you. All the best.
Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.